Financial Argument. Follow us on YouTube.
Now, all over the corporate media, we hear that Trump, well, he's going to mix up his administration. And I remember going back a couple of reports where Robert David Steele, he was mentioning that Trump should get rid of certain individuals because they're not there to support him. And I think as time goes on, I do believe that Trump will be getting rid of many individuals within his administration. And we already see that Matt Drudge was also out there saying that Trump needs to clean house. And the question is he listening to these people? Because it seems like he's doing exactly what they told him to do. Now, former Director of National Intelligence, James Clapper, he's admitted that there's absolutely no evidence of collusion between Russia and Trump. Now, he was speaking on This Week. Clapper was forced to admit that the DNI failed to find any evidence of Russian-Trump relationship. And he said, at the time I left office, I had no evidence available to me that there was collusion. And he always follows it up that he really didn't have all the evidence because he wasn't really part of the main investigation and he didn't have all the content, so he can't say either way. Basically, they're trying to cover themselves, and this is why they continually say these type of things. But he continually says there's no evidence, but then he backs it up saying he didn't have all the information. There is no information because if there was, they would have produced it already. It wouldn't have taken this long. They would have shown everyone what they had. Just like they did with Flynn. Even though it wasn't really strong evidence, they presented it and said, oh, look, we have this. They would have done the same thing with Trump right off the bat, but they don't have anything. We see Representative Peter King, and he's saying that, listen, there's probably more connections between Hillary Clinton and Russia than there are between Moscow and Trump. He says, I'm not aware of any evidence whatsoever so far of any collusion between the Trump campaign and Russia. So let's take a look at the Clintons. Well, we know that we have the Clinton Foundation. No, it's not located in Russia. But if we look at Bill Clinton, for instance, he received $500,000 in 2010 for a speech he gave in Moscow. Collusion with Russia. And that was paid by a Russian firm, Renaissance Capital, that has ties to Russian intelligence, which has ties to his wife because he's married to her. The Clinton Foundation took money from Russian officials and oligarchs. The foundation also received millions of dollars from Uranium One, which was sold to the Russian government in 2010, giving Russia control of 20% of the uranium deposits in the U.S. The sale required approval from Hillary Clinton's State Department. What's more, at least some of these donations weren't disclosed. Let's look at John Podesta. In March, well, long after the election was over, it was revealed that Mrs. Clinton's campaign chairman had failed to disclose the receipt of 75,000 shares of stock from a Kremlin finance company, for which he served as a director from 2010 to 2014, when he joined the Obama White House in 2014. Russian collusion. So there looks like there's more Russian collusion with the entire Clinton family than there is with Trump. And Hillary Clinton was part of the government while she was dealing with Russia and receiving money, and her husband was receiving money. Now, Larry Klayman is out there, and we mentioned this before, but I wanted to bring it up one more time because Larry Klayman said something very, very interesting. He said he presented a whistleblower. His name was Dennis Montgomery, and he was an NSA CIA contractor, and he came forward with the 47 hard drives. There's like 600 pages of information, and this information that is stored on the hard drives shows something very interesting. Now, we've mentioned this before, where all this spying was spying on politicians, judges, business leaders, and many more to basically blackmail them, keep them in control. And these 600 pages actually show that, yes, they were spying on Trump. They were also spying on Supreme Court justices. the Chief Justice himself, 156 judges, prominent businessmen, and many other individuals. Now, he's been saying that he's been trying to hand this off and have an investigation start, and he went to the House and Senate Judiciary Committees about all of this, and no one would even help him. Now, the reason for this is because they are so afraid of the intelligence agencies, because guess what? They have something on each and every one of these individuals, because as we can see from this documentation, they've been spying on all these individuals. They get the dirt on them and they blackmail them, and they keep them in place, and they make sure they do what they want. That's what this whole spying apparatus thing is about. And we can see, coming from Larry Klayman, he's saying that the intelligence agencies, they are more powerful than the president. This is the biggest threat to our country. It isn't terrorists. It isn't North Korea. It isn't Russia. It isn't China. It's here, inside the United States. It's the intelligence community. They are the terrorists. I mean, think about it. What does a terrorist do? Don't they blackmail people? Don't they keep fear in people to make them do what they want, or they get rid of them? They terrorize them day after day to make sure they do exactly what they want? So basically, the intelligence agencies, they are the terrorists, and they're working from inside of the country. Now, we can see out in Venezuela, things are not going well whatsoever. There's a humanitarian crisis. We can see over the past 5 weeks, there's been a lot of pressure, and it's been mounting for a regime change. And we can see that there's even doubts that Maduro is going to make it to the October 2018 elections. And we see that Maduro, he tried to unite the country, but the central bankers, the United States government, the deep state, they've been pushing and pushing and pushing. And we can see that there are people that are very hungry. Riots, they're breaking out almost every single day. And most likely Maduro might be pushed out of power way before the elections. We see right now that Venezuela's currency, it is in free fall right now. I mean, it's worth absolutely nothing, and it really didn't take that much time for it to lose all its value. It took around 2 years or so where the currency just lost its value, and it accelerated when it hit 2015. And going from July 19th of 2015 to May 8th of 2017, the currency was very close to zero. And we can see that this is not a good situation. Out in Yemen, we see that there's a humanitarian catastrophe happening right now. The Red Cross is out there, and they are expressing concern over the dire humanitarian situation in Yemen. The International Committee of the Red Cross has sent monitoring mission individuals to the country to observe the situation, to see what is happening there. And we have to remember, the deep state right now is using Saudi Arabia to go into Yemen to force them back into their regime change. The Yemeni people, they do not want this. The Libyan people don't want this. The Iraqi people don't want this. The Syrian people don't want this. The Ukrainian people don't want this. All of these countries, they don't want another country picking their leaders. And this is exactly what the United States does. We see North Korea, well, they blasted off another ballistic missile, and they're saying it's a new type where this missile can hold a nuclear warhead. And of course, they are very nervous. I mean, any country would be nervous, because you're looking at the deep state. You know what they've done to other countries. You know they've destroyed other countries, and you know that they have regime change. If you were that country, you would protect yourself too. Of course, the corporate media and the deep state, they're making it seem like, oh no, North Korea is going to attack us. No, what they're doing is they're setting up defensive weapons to make sure the deep state can't come into their country. This is why they're continually firing off missiles. This is why they're testing so rapidly. I mean, they've been doing it for quite a while, but the CIA, the intelligence community, they want to get into this country as fast as possible. They're trying to start a war. And I wouldn't be surprised if they have some type of an event. Now, Putin said something very, very interesting, and he spoke about the latest North Korean missile test during a Chinese economic summit, and he told the world leaders to stop intimidating North Korea. He said, "We are categorically against the expansion of the club of nuclear powers. We consider the missile test counterproductive, harmful, and dangerous." But he then added, "We must stop intimidating North Korea and find a peaceful solution to this problem." And we know that Trump would like to speak to North Korea. North Korea wants to speak to the Trump administration. The South Korean president wants to speak to the North Korean president. And we can see that everyone wants to speak to each other, but the deep state, they don't want this to happen. They don't want peace. That goes against everything they want to do. Now we see that Germany, they are looking to remove themselves from the Incirlik air base, and they're looking to relocate its troops from the Turkey air base following the recent refusal by Ankara to allow German MPs to visit soldiers stationed there. And we see already that they're getting ready to pull out and find someplace else to go. Relations between Germany and Turkey not working out very well. We see the Islamic State commanders, well, they just flipped over to becoming the moderate rebels. Now, I've said this in the past, they flip back and forth. What's happening right now is that the Islamic State, they are withering away, and they can't be part of the Islamic State, so they have to say, okay, now I'm part of the moderate rebels. And this is what they've done from the beginning. So everything that the Islamic State was, they are no longer. All those individuals that were part of the moderate rebels, which is really the same terrorist groups, but they were shifted into the Islamic State, they are now all coming back. Because, again, with Russia and Syria fighting the terrorist groups, really fighting the terrorist groups in Syria, guess what? They are losing. We see Syria, they have deployed troops to the border with Jordan, and we see that they're protecting themselves because they're hearing word that there's going to be some type of invasion. We see already that the 42nd Brigade of the 4th Mechanized Division is redeploying near the Golan Heights. And the reason why all this is happening right now is because they are getting prepared for some type of invasion. They don't know what it is. They don't know who it's going to be. Well, they kind of know who it's going to be. It's going to be the United States, the coalition forces, Israel, and the rest. And we don't know if it's going to be paid mercenaries, a mixture of them with the U.S. troops and the coalition forces, but we can see that something is building. We see Trump right now, well, he's taken the baton away from General Mattis and McMaster's, and he's given it to Tillerson. He wants Tillerson to work with Sergei Lavrov on the whole entire peace deal in Syria. And we can see right now that the United States is going to be part of the Astana peace talks. And we can see right now that McMaster's and Mattis, they are completely out. Tillerson will be dealing with Lavrov to calm the situation down. Now we can see that Deep State, they are pushing their agenda. Remember, their agenda is to get into Syria. They have never stopped wanting that. That is still their goal. They are out there in the State Department. Stuart Jones, the acting Assistant Secretary of Near Eastern Affairs, came out and said, yes, we have no evidence, but we do believe, because we have these pictures, we really don't know what they are, shows that, yes, Assad is now taking prisoners and basically murdering them and then burning the bodies. And of course, what do they use as evidence? They have credible sources. And they believe that many of the bodies have been disposed in mass graves. I mean, this is the evidence they're handing out. This is what they're telling. They're not showing any linkage. They're not showing any proof. They went on to say that the department conceded that photographs taken over the course of several years, beginning in 2013, do not definitely prove the building is a crematorium. They really don't know what it is. And they're just out there throwing this around, hoping to get some traction. Now, we do see U.S. and British forces. They've entered the southern part of Syria, and they've done this on Sunday while traveling through the Tanf border crossing in the Homs Governorate. And based on the reports released by the Smart News Agency, approximately 150 U.S. and British military personnel entered Syria alongside the Free Syrian Army, which is very interesting. Now, we know over the weekend there was this gigantic cyber attack. We talked about it. Is this the deep state holding the entire world for ransom? And what we're seeing right now is that many of the countries were hit. There's more than 200,000 computers right now, and at least 50 countries that have been so far infected. And this is coming from the Europol, European Union Law Enforcement Agency. And we see right now that this is all because of the intelligence agencies. Now, it's either they're causing it, and they're the ones who did this, to show these countries what they're capable of doing, or someone found the security hole breach and they used it, and criminals are using this to their advantage. And again, the United States is to blame because, as we know, they have security holes in every single system, and it's only a matter of time before criminals find this out. But what I find very interesting about all of this is that actually Trump and those individuals that want to take down these intelligence communities, take down the neocons, they can use this to their benefit because they can see what the intelligence agencies do. They create these things, they create these security breaches, and they allow criminals in to do this type of stuff. And actually, they can rein them in if they were smart. But what's very interesting about this is to understand what happened here. In a matter of hours, countries were stopped in their tracks. China, ATM machines frozen. Hospitals went dark. If they can do this on this type of scale, think about what they can do with the world, with the banking system. And we know they've been planning this for a very long time. We know that they will use whatever they have to blame this on another group, another person, or anyone, or any type of entity. And the only way to basically show that they're not responsible for the economy going down is to use some type of cyber attack. Remember, they have kill switches for the stock market, the S&P 500. They have it for the BAT system. They developed this a long time ago. Remember, British and U.S. agents, they've been carrying out mock cyber attack war games. The Bank of England and the commercial banks in the City of London and on Wall Street, they were part of these tests. And what we're seeing right now is a system which they can bring down in a split second, which means all funds, all digital currency, they can completely wipe out, and they can blame it on someone else. This is their kill switch for the system. This is what I'm talking about, how they can take this system down in a split second. Now, if they figure that Trump is going and winning and he's bringing down the system, and the good guys and part of his administration, they're bringing down the system, they might go ahead and try to bring down the system in this manner, where they'll freeze everything. They'll say it wasn't them. They might even blame it on Trump. They might blame it on North Korea. Who knows? Doesn't really matter at this point. But the point is, they will make sure that they're not blamed for it. Then they'll make it look like they're coming to the rescue. And you can see how this whole thing can unfold right now. Now remember, their job, the deep state, the central bank, their job right now is to create an instance where they can create war if they can't get that started. Because if they have a war, well, they can say that since we are in a war, the economy's not doing well, the system's collapsing, everyone has to basically sacrifice. If they can't get the war started, and they see that Trump is bringing down the system, and they have no alternative but to bring it down, they will use a cyber attack. This way, they can blame it on whoever they want. They can blame it on Trump. And plus, they'll still be in control of the system. They also are trying to get rid of Trump. What do you think this Russian collusion whole thing is about? This is why they've never let it go. And I'm sure they're going to come up with a lot more information about Trump because they want him gone. They don't want him in office. He is the enemy. And this is why they've been trying so hard. Actually, during the campaign, during the election, right after the election, think about all the things they've done to try to get rid of him. And now they're continually pushing the Russian collusion. I wouldn't be surprised if they come up with even more to try to get him to resign or to try to impeach him. And if all of this doesn't work, they're going to still try to assassinate him. But they do have the kill switch ready to go, which means they will bring down the financial institutions if they have no way out of the entire situation. If they feel that they're losing